Well, the time has finally come. We now have answers to a few questions that we've been asking since this series began. I'll be honest with you right up front, I have a lot of problems with this issue, and we're going to talk about them as they come up, so let's get right into it. Green Lantern number 7 is written by Jeremy Adams with art by Amanke Nalopam, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., and letters by Dave Sharp. The title of this issue is Nothing to Fear. The issue opens on a flashback to a time right before Hal quit the Corps. All of the Green Lanterns are gathered on Oa, awaiting the arrival of the United Planets delegation. The Guardians are gone, and there are only a couple hundred Green Lanterns left, and since Oa is a member world in the United Planets, the UP has authority to step in and reorganize things. John Stewart is also there, and he's wearing his normal Green Lantern uniform, which he says is to show solidarity with the Corps during a time of uncertainty. But the fact that he's there at all just feels strange. Not only did he used to be the leader of the Green Lantern Corps, but he's currently an ascended being, so in a lot of ways he's the closest thing the universe has to a Guardian, which makes this whole change of leadership feel kind of unnecessary. And I know from reading Green Lantern War Journal why John wouldn't actually want the job of Corps leader right now, but his presence on Oa during this scene just raises more questions than it answers. It would make more sense if he hadn't been seen on Oa since the end of the previous run of Green Lantern when he created their new power source. And speaking of that new power source, let's get into my first real major problem with the issue. The United Planets delegation summarizes the current state of the Green Lantern Corps to bring readers up to speed on what happened in the previous run of Green Lantern written by Geoffrey Thorne. They talk about how the central battery was destroyed, how there are only a select few Green Lanterns left, and how thanks to John Stewart they've got a new power battery filled with pure source energy. The problem is that they don't have a battery full of source energy, because that's not what John made. I have a whole playlist of videos reviewing the entire Geoffrey Thorne run of Green Lantern, which directly sets up what's going on in the current Jeremy Adams run, so let me give you an abridged explanation of where that battery came from and why what this issue says about it is wrong. What they have is a big ball of energy that's a combination of all the power from the green, blue, and sapphire central batteries, plus a ton of magic from Sorcerer's World. The Source did communicate with John while he was combining all of these different powers, but the Source didn't contribute any power to John or the overall process. So I really don't know what this UP delegate is talking about. Unless maybe what they're getting at is the idea of everything coming from the Source, so combining enough of these massive energies would produce source energy, but I don't know. The closest we've ever got to something like that was a storyline called Godhead, that was all about the new gods stealing lantern rings because they believed that the white light of the White Lantern would give them access to the life equation. Kyle's ring did let them access the life equation, but that didn't have anything to do with combining the different emotional spectrum powers. It was actually because Kyle saw the life equation once and a copy was saved to his ring. It's honestly kind of a mess, and maybe I'm overthinking all this. Maybe I should just go with the flow, but it's hard since Jeremy Adams is going out of his way to use various elements of DC history as a foundation of his run, including everything that happened in the previous run of Green Lantern, which really makes it stand out when the details don't match. Anyway, Lord Premier Tharos explains that since there are so few Green Lanterns left, they need to be used strategically. Until the Corps can be rebuilt to full strength, all of the lanterns will be reassigned to focus primarily on areas where order will be the easiest to maintain. The idea is that the Green Lantern Corps is currently too small to handle the most problematic parts of the universe, and trying would spread them too thin to do any actual good. Which, I mean, he's right. I've been saying for a long time now that the Green Lantern Corps has never been big enough to operate the way they do, and that was before their ranks were decimated. Since the majority of universal calamities happen on Earth or are caused by Earthlings, Earth and its sector are declared off limits. Every human in the room hates the idea and considers walking out, but Tharos reminds them that not only does Earth have more than enough super people to protect it, what's left of the Green Lantern Corps needs every veteran lantern it has left to both protect the universe and train new recruits. Anyone who's read Green Lantern War Journal or the War World arc in Action Comics knows that Tharos is objectively a bad guy. But everything he's saying about redistributing the core and declaring Earth off limits does make complete sense. We don't yet know where all the Earth Lanterns are being sent, but Guy Gardner has been assigned to go arrest Lobo, which could mean that Guy will pop up in the House of Brainiac storyline that's crossing over Superman and Action Comics, since Lobo seems to be playing a pretty big role in that story. Other than Guy, we know that Hal and Killowog are assigned to be a security escort for Tharos as he goes to the planet Korrigar to try and convince Sinestro that his world should join the United Planets. Hal doesn't like this one bit, but Tharos is adamant that an alliance with Sinestro would help the United Planets protect the universe. One problem, Korrigar is already a member of the United Planets. The previous run of Green Lantern started with representatives of every member world gathering to vote on whether or not Oa can join the UP, and Sinestro was right there, speaking and voting on behalf of the planet Korrigar. So this entire part of the story doesn't make sense. The negotiations don't go well at all. Sinestro is very aware that he's holding all the cards, and Hal can barely contain his desire to punch Sinestro in the face. Tharos actually throws Hal out of the meeting and tells him to wait in the ship. That's when all hell breaks loose. 3 Yellow Lanterns attack the meeting with the intention of assassinating Tharos. They fail because Killowog is there, and Hal arrives just in time to pull Tharos out of the wreckage and get him to safety. That leaves Killowog to fight the 3 Yellow Lanterns alone, and this is where my next big problem comes in. Last issue, we got confirmation that, according to Hal, Killowog is dead. And this fight is the scene where it happens. That means there's a tremendous amount of importance and expectation placed on this scene, and in my opinion, both the writing and the art completely fail to live up to it. This fight scene goes on for multiple pages and somehow feels less action-packed than the scene of Sinestro sitting at a table antagonizing Hal. Killowog receives what look like a series of minor injuries that leave him broken and defeated at the feet of 3 complete nobodies. This is the same character who fought wave after wave of Yellow Lanterns during the Sinestro Corps War, then defeated Arkillo in one-on-one combat, then fought even more waves of Yellow Lanterns and came out on top. And of course he did, because this is Killowog we're talking about. A guy who's so good at being a Green Lantern that they let him train most of the other Green Lanterns. But I'm supposed to believe that these 3 randos that nobody's ever seen before can take him out this easily? I don't think so. And hey, maybe there is something special about this trio that explains how this makes sense. Maybe we'll find out all about it later. But even if that happens, it doesn't help right now. And then we get to the big moment, Killowog's death. In one final act of defiance, Killowog lunges forward at the entire group, pushing them towards the Yellow Central Battery just as it flares up with a violent burst of energy. According to Hal, all 4 of them were incinerated in the blast. And it is mind-blowing to me that this is why we're supposed to believe Killowog is dead. A mysterious flash of energy with an unknown cause enveloped Killowog and now he's gone, and we're supposed to believe that he was incinerated? No way, absolutely no chance. Killowog and those 3 Yellow Lanterns are all alive, and they've probably just been teleported somewhere. Based on the content of this issue, there is absolutely nothing to make me believe that Killowog is dead, and I'm kind of astonished that Hal believes it. The only other thing of note in this scene is the fact that Sinestro claims to have had nothing to do with the attack, and agreed to join the United Planets as an act of good faith. Maybe Sinestro's lying, but he did look genuinely surprised when the attack happened. Honestly, it's more likely that Tharos set up the whole thing. Maybe he wants to get rid of any veteran lanterns that he can't control so that he can fill the Corps with corrupt cops like we're seeing over in Green Lantern War Journal. Regardless, between the writing and the art, there was nothing interesting or exciting about a scene that was supposed to read as the last stand of one of the greatest lanterns in the history of the universe. I cannot fully express to you how let down I feel by this whole flashback. The final page takes us back to Earth in the present day, where Hal finishes telling Razor about all of this. Razor tells Hal that there's always hope, and Hal makes reference to Razor studying on Odom, homeworld of the Blue Lanterns, which implies that there's at least some overlap between the backstories of this version of Razor and his cartoon counterpart. But the moment we end on is Hal looking shocked when Razor tells him that the Blue Lantern central battery on Odom was destroyed. And I'm just sitting here thinking, yeah, of course it was. We saw it happen in the previous run of Green Lantern. That's how all that Blue Lantern energy ended up in the new power source John Stewart made. I don't know if this is a case of Hal having to catch up to what the reader already knows, or maybe the assumption is that not everyone reading this book read the previous run. Or maybe it's just a mistake. Regardless, it's frustrating, because this whole issue seems determined to build off of the events of the Geoffrey Thorne run of Green Lantern without actually remembering what happened in it. And to close the issue out, we've got the final chapter of the backup story, Wayward Sons, Part 4, written by Peter J. Tomasi with art by David LaFuente, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, and letters by Rob Lay. It's a big showdown between Korg, who's determined to leave the planet and secure a better life for himself, and Nagaf, who's determined to break Korg's spirit. Korg just magically has video of Nagaf living the good life, full of nice clothes and fancy cars and all that. I don't know when Korg could have possibly taken this video, but whatever. It exposes the truth that Nagaf has been using these kids as his own personal bank, spending as little as possible to keep them fed while pretending it's just as hard for him as it is for them, when in reality he's been keeping most of the cash for himself. Korg and Nagaf have a fight, Korg wins even though there's really no reason he should have, and then all the other homeless kids decide to start following Korg as their new leader. And then, completely out of nowhere, Korg changes his name to Sin-Sun for no reason. The end of this story seems to really want to be about the nature of family. Biological family, found family, and what they're both worth. The other kids choosing to stay with Korg should have been a big deal that contrasts with how Nagaf couldn't care less about any of them, and only sees them as a source of income. And I think it could have been genuinely interesting if Nagaf was trying to destroy Korg's hope for a better life because of their opposing worldviews, but it ended up being all about money and nothing else. And that's honestly the most boring option, because it doesn't do anything interesting that supports a core theme. At this point in the story, Nagaf feels like a waste of an antagonist, and because of all the pages spent focusing on Nagaf, I don't know or care about any of these other kids, so them choosing to join Korg in the end didn't really mean anything to me. The most unfortunate part of this whole thing is the fact that this is supposed to make me want to read that Sinister Sons book. And I can't think of a single reason to do that, other than the fact that I have a YouTube channel that focuses on Lantern stuff. I do think that David LaFuente and Tamara Bonvillain did good work on the art and colors, but in terms of writing, everything important about this entire 4-part backup story will probably be summed up in a panel or two in Sinister Sons #1. And that's a shame, because this had potential that it never lived up to. Maybe the Sinister Sons book will make Korg and his story feel worthwhile. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm planning to let a few issues of Sinister Sons pile up and then see if anything interesting is going on. So there may eventually be a video where we continue Korg's journey, but no promises. And that's Green Lantern #7. Sorry for complaining so much, but I just really didn't like this issue. Although maybe you did, in which case I'd love to know why. What do you think about the approach Tharos is taking with the Corps? Are you excited to see Guy fight Lobo? How do you feel about the way Killowog's death was handled? And are you excited for Sinister Sons? Tell me all about it in the comments. I'm really curious to see what you all think about this one. Who knows, maybe your perspective will make me feel better about the issue. So until next time, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.